Welcome to the Sacred Emergence Podcast. I'm your host, Michelle Wong, and I'm so thrilled that you're here. This is a place where you'll be guided to living your most aligned life so that your truest, most radiant self can emerge. We'll be jamming on topics ranging from spirituality, entrepreneurship, to wellness and lifestyle design, and everything in between that can support you to grow, evolve, and shine, all the while not taking ourselves too seriously. So if you're ready to step into your leadership, break through limiting beliefs, own all of who you are, and expand in abundance, grab yourself your faith cup of tea and let's dive in. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Sacred Emergence. This is Michelle Wong here, and you'll notice that today is not Monday, at least like when this episode drops. It is right in the middle of the week, and I have a bonus episode for you because it's a little bit time sensitive. And full disclaimer, this is a promotional piece. It's a promotional episode because I am launching a workshop next week that I just decided to do last week, and I put all the pieces together earlier this week, and there's an early bird pricing going on, and I wanted to let you all know in case you are interested. And because my episodes on a regular drop every Monday, by the time Monday hits, the early bird would have already disappeared. And I wanted to give you a heads up since you are my podcast listener, and I really want to honor you and for being a listener and for being in my world. And so I also wanted to offer some insights around the topic in the workshop and why for me it is so important, and give some of my experience and my perspective on this. And as always, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. So, beautiful breakups. That is the title of this podcast episode, and it's actually the title of my upcoming 3-day workshop. And it's happening actually next week, Wednesday, August 26, 27, 28. And it's going to be for 3 days. And even though it's breakups, it's not just romantic relationship breakups. We're actually on each day, we're going to cover breakups in terms of client relationships, client bosses, like more work related, friendships, and then as well as romantic. And I did want to highlight this all came to be because of, for me personally, from really doing healing, release work, and just shifting perspectives around relationship, like romantic relationship breakups. And when I was talking to my coach, I was telling her my process of how I do things and what has really worked for me. And it's just like, it's just my perspective on things. And when I shared it with her, she's like, wow, where were you 3 years ago when I could have used that for my clients? Like my client just dropping the ball, not showing up, like dropped the contract, just disappeared. And it made it like, it was so like the separation was just so like awkward and like gross. Like she has like almost not a grudge, but it didn't feel good, right? That whole experience didn't feel good. And that can happen in any type of dynamic in terms of relationships, right? And I feel like this is so important. And I felt really called to offer this workshop because as humans, we are here on earth to be in relationship to people, right? Be it your neighbor, your boss, romantic partnership, your children, your parents, like siblings, like we are here to be in relationship with people. And that's what actually helps us to grow. It actually allows us to feel. We're not meant to be, out in the woods in a cabin and be a hermit for all our lives. There's people who do that, but the whole point of that is to come back and teach us what you've learned in relationships, right? Like in relationship to people, like connection. And so relationship it really is what makes us human, is what makes us grow. And so being able to navigate a relationship, especially when a relationship has ended, be able to navigate that in a really healthy way so that it doesn't carry a grudge or bitterness is super, super important, and actually allows us to have better relationships moving forward. And so breakup is, usually people think of breakup for romantic relationships, but you can think of it as, parting of ways, a dissolution of some sort. And with any type, but I'll use the word breakup. And with any breakup, there is both a physical and an energetic separation. The physical is, is more apparent. The energetic separation, that's harder because for whatever reason, whenever we meet people, make connections with people, we create a cord, right? And it's an energetic cord that can connect us with someone else. And until we're able to release the cord and clear the cord, we're always going to feel somewhat connected to them. And so the energetic and the physical separation happens. And then sometimes we need to work with that energy a little bit so that we can clear it. And so I'm just mentioning that because I said energetic and physical separation, but the energetics is actually really important, and it's what lingers. And a lot of times that can be causing, it doesn't feel good, or I'm trying to move on, but this is still lingering, or, that job experience left a really bad taste in my mouth, and not even so much the job, but like the people in there, you know what I mean? And so it's all about now, after the separation, it's really about you. It's about us as the individual. And so how do we tell the story? What is our perspective? What is the lens that we put on? And the closer that relationship is to the heart, the more intimate it is. It is a little bit harder because there was, we're talking about our heart energy here. And so sometimes it's harder, and then the ego, gets involved. It's easy to wear our lens of the victim and create stories that isn't necessarily true, but it's how we felt, and it's easy to point fingers and to blame. And it's important to be aware of these emotions that's happening, and so that when we move on to a next relationship, again, be it a new romantic partnership or even with other people, it's important to know what's happening. And I feel like it's really important to shift the perspective and to not come from a place of woe is me, because that is not powerful, right? We really want to step in from a place of personal power and know that we have a choice of coming from a place of compassion, of love, and of respect. And for me personally, and I'll use romantic relationships as an example, all of my romantic relationships have ended on good terms. And it doesn't mean I'm buddy-buddy with my exes. That's not the case, and it doesn't have to be. But I have, for me, it's important that if there's a breakup, that it is on good terms. It's actually like my personal standard. And because of that, I believe that the men that I attract in my life are good people. Not good, I believe men are good people. That sounded really weird. I just believe that I attract high quality men, is what I mean to say. And that is my standard. So that's honest, that's honestly my energetic expectation. And for whatever reason, I just feel like my energy filters out those who aren't meant to be in my circle, in my world, because my standard is very high. And because of that, because of the energetic standard, then energetically there's a match, right? And so the more we're able to part ways with any type of relationship dynamic, if we can hold a high standard, the people we attract in our lives become high standard, right? Our friendships, right? Our coworkers, the people that we surround ourselves with becomes a higher standard, because that is what we expect. And you can't just expect it in a way, you need to match it energetically. But if you're pointing daggers, if you are, blaming, and if you're oh, that was really crappy and da 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 da, then that energy kind of it just kind of follows. It can really follow. And so this workshop is all about changing the perspective from lack to abundance, and really how can we take our relationships, the ones that really have an effect on us, and how can we reframe it in a way that can actually serve us, and so that when we move forward, when we look back to the memories, when we look back to the relationships, it was oh, that actually was really awesome because of blah, 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 and then it led me to this place, right? So it's all about shifting our memories, not shifting our memories, but shifting our perspective. Because for me, for example, when I look back to my relationships, right? It's not like it was perfect. Like, no, like there was definitely hurt. There was a lot of healing. And sometimes like there was areas where like I could have totally been the victim, but that is not from a place of power. And so this work, the work that I do, is all about growth. And so when I look back in my life like that, this is like, for me, this is the distinction. When I look back in my life, I don't want to have regrets where I have bitterness, where I have judgment, where I'm, hurt and resentful, because that isn't going to serve me well. And it is not good for my health. It's just not good. And I don't want to look back and have stories like that when really those are stories that are in my head, right? I can totally shift the perspective. And after a relationship has parted, it's no longer about them. It's how you manage the situation, right? How you manage the energy of it all. And so this isn't about spiritual bypassing. It's not about pretending everything is okay and wearing, like there's like you're putting on a shield and you're just emotionless. Like, no, not at all. This is where we do the inner work, the deep inner work. And it's all about showing up and being willing to look at what's really beneath the surface, right? Let's confront the ego. And with this workshop, we're going to do those together. We're going to do parts of it together so that at the end of the day, when we are looking at our life, it's not just a good or bad. It's how do we walk with it all, right? My mentor, Melanie Enleer, talks about being able to walk with both success and failure. And that is so important because when I think about relationships, it's so important, like relationships in our lives. And how do we really hold on to relationships in a way that it's like a beautiful memory? We can create a beautiful context so that it makes our life really enriched, right? It's an enriched life that we live because of the connections that we have or had and the lessons that we've learned and the memories that we get to take away with us, even if the relationship has parted and, there was like a bad taste in the mouth. How do we shift it so that we step back into our power? And forgiveness work definitely is important. And for this, it's so important to see things from a different context, especially if you feel like there's still healing to be done, right? I feel like if there's still a bitterness in a relationship because it didn't end on good terms, then there's still work to be done until you're able to see things at least neutral. And be like, yeah, that was that experience, and be able to actually look at it from a different lens, a different perspective, aka the micro shift. And what the micro shift means for me is, if you're all familiar with Tony Robbins, he talks about the 2 millimeter shift. It literally is like it's a pivot of how you see things, right? Or how you react to situations or how you respond. And as full disclaimer, I actually haven't heard of Tony Robbins' segment around the 2 millimeter shift. So this is like my micro shift is how I would assume he's talking about the 2 millimeter shift. But really, it's my embodiment of shifting the perspective, really from lack to abundance mindset. Like this is translatable to looking at relationship dynamics differently. And I should also highlight and point out that when I talk about relationships, particularly romantic relationships or even like any type of relationship, in this context of what I'm talking about, the workshop that I'm offering is based on non-abusive relationships. So abusive relationship is completely different, and that is not my expertise. So if there's something there that needs to be looked at, then please seek professional support. This workshop is for non-abusive, healthy relationships. And so what's really interesting is that, I work with human design, and this is, especially if you know human design and you have an undefined or an open emotional energy center, aka the solar plexus. If it's open for you, then this workshop will probably be really good for you. My emotional center is open. I'm an emotional empath, and it's because of the fact that it's open, undefined solar plexus. It's amplified for us. Like we feel things, right? We feel things, and we notice like the distinctions and the contrast of emotions. And then for me, from my experience, I'm also part of my purpose and my path is really to learn feelings. Astrologically, I'm Cancer Sun, Cancer Rising, and Cancer is all about the emotions, it's all about the feelings. And I'm like, oh, well, this makes so much sense. When I look at like my work and like the things that really light me up, at the end of the day, it's like, first, for me, I learn it, I process it, and then I can teach it because I've embodied it. And I'm telling you, like, even if there's loss, grief, there's a lot of hurt, the more we're able to work through it and come out through the other side, the experience of life, right? It makes us more alive. And not just that, it's like it makes our lives richer because we have the capacity to really feel deeply. And like it's what makes us human. So being willing to look at this type of work, I think, is incredibly important. And so this workshop that's happening next week, for those of you who might want more details, it is happening over a private Facebook group just for beautiful breakups. It's going to be done over Facebook Live over 3 days. I don't have the hours set yet. It depends on the people who join, and I'll find the best time, but I have an idea of the times I would like to offer it. And then each day will be a different relationship type. So one will be on clients, workplace, bosses. The other one will be on friendships, and then another one will be on romantic relationships. And so this is relevant for so many areas in your life. And for the context of focusing this workshop on breakups, it's actually very, very helpful, very, very useful. And it's what, for me, this is very, it's fresh because I've embodied it, I've learned it. And, for those of you who have been listening to me for a while, or just listen to the podcast for a while, you know that I was in a relationship that recently ended. Again, ended on great terms, and there's still healing to be done after a parting in a relationship. So how does one navigate that? It's at the end of the day, it's your story, it's your life. How do you really want to tell it? Do you want to tell it with anger, bitterness when you think about certain scenarios and different people? Or do you want to see it as like, those are such great lessons that I learned, and there were good memories from there, and then I get to learn from it and then move on, right? And I'm not saying that everything has to be perfect, right? Like, there could be situations in life where we have friends that just literally don't support us anymore, drop off the face of the earth, we don't hear from them again, right? I mean, like, a lot of us have that because, like, the more we grow and expand, just, our standards change, our energy changes, our perspective changes, and, very unlikely you're friends with the same person you were in kindergarten, and so, like, that's really normal. And if we're not willing to see it as that's just part of growth, and then be able to work through that, then the judgment, the resentment, the bitterness, it actually, like, those chemicals, those emotions carry chemicals, and they carry stress in our cells, and it leaks into our cells every time we think about it, right? So part of it, if you feel like there's still resentment in any type of relationship that has parted, then a part of it requires some forgiveness work, because it's no longer their issue, to be frank. It's how are you going to choose to navigate it? And so in our 3-day workshop, we're going to be talking about it. We're going to move through some of the energy. There'll be some energetic work, as well as just like looking at things from a different lens and then processing things differently. And so I am so excited to share this. I feel like it is so needed. And so even though it's beautiful breakups for all relationship types. And if you want to learn more, I actually did 2 Facebook Lives. One was fully on beautiful breakups for the workshop. Another one was on my lack versus abundance, my own kind of breakthrough thoughts. So I'll share both links to my Facebook Live in the show notes. And if you have any questions, you can send me an email. Michelle@nonlinearpath.com. And in terms of the pricing, so right now through the end of this weekend, we are an early bird. And so starting Monday next week, so what is that, August the 24th, it goes up to regular pricing. So if you know you're in, please send me an email and I'll give you more details on everything. And again, it's Michelle@nonlinearpath.com, or you can find me on Instagram, michellewong.xo, or if we're connected on Facebook, then you can find me there as well in my messenger inbox. And what else is there? I think that is it. So if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you're listening to this like way after this workshop is live and you're still interested in it, feel free to let me know. Reach out to me. I plan on having this, there for replay. So you can always kind of circle back and see if you want to catch the replay and the recording because they will all be on Facebook. And what I love about the format of doing this on Facebook is that the comments that are shared are still there so that you can see other people's journey and you can learn from each other as well. So that's one piece I really love about the comments when there's the Facebook Live portion or just doing it on Facebook because the comments are kept. Anyway, thank you so much for tuning in. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out. And if you are in, amazing. I can't wait to hear from you and have a beautiful, beautiful upcoming weekend. Take care. Join our free private Facebook group community, Sacred Emergence, to receive more connection, guidance, and support. And take part in our 5-day Inner Confidence Challenge to not only boost your confidence, but to help activate your inner leadership. Details in the show notes. Thank you for listening to the Sacred Emergence podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss an episode, and thank you in advance for sharing this with others who can benefit. Until next time.